Hello, hello. Welcome back.
Uh,
Iron Movement listeners are now
Plates and
Plates
PRs. I
podcast.
like that name a lot, actually.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
My name is Kat.
And I'm Christina, and welcome to the Plates and PRs podcast.
Yeah,
It just rolls off the tongue really nice.
it does. I am kind of obsessed with the name. I mean, I loved Iron Movement from the beginning. We decided on Iron Movement because of iron. It's in the food, it's important to have.
Yep.
And we're lifting iron, like weights. And we did the FE for the periodic table of elements. It made sense. It was sciencey. It was evidence based.
And no one got it
Taylor.
except Taylor.
It was just hard to share that name, especially with the movement without you'd be like, okay, so it's iron, you can spell it out, movement, but without the vowels and they're together and yeah.
Yep. So we live, we learn. Plates PRs, I feel like, is also in line with the overall athlete that we work with, people that we work
Yep.
with for nutrition. I know that for Kat, I know your stuff, you have a vast clientele and people you work with, but for kind of our niche and what we're doing, I just feel like the plates and PRs just resonates with the CrossFit community, with the lifting community, running community. Like, what if you're trying to break through and hit, top weights, top run times, then I think this just makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because with Iron Movement, it was like, well, what is kind of the movement? Or do you provide like programming and what do you offer? What does that mean?
Yeah, we had to explain everything with iron movement. And
What?
this is very like what it is.
Yeah.
If you're in the space, you automatically know what plates and PRs are.
Right, right. If you don't know what PR is, then we're probably not it's not the
Yeah.
niche, right? Like for
Yeah,
you. So,
exactly. Exactly.
um, I love it. Plates being like weights and then also food wise. So there's still some of that like,
Yep.
additional
Play on
meat.
words.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And our focus being on helping the athlete to grow as an athlete in a variety of ways with their food and ultimately be like do better and hit those PRs. And so
Yes.
I'm really excited about like the name itself. I think gave me a lot of more just energy and excitement and just like revamping things up.
I feel that way too. When we first talked about changing the name, I got really excited and I was just like, okay, this is good. And then when you came with the idea, I think we tweaked it a little bit. I
Yeah.
can't remember what we even had.
It was plates to PRs. So like
Oh,
plates
okay.
like going to
Gotcha.
PRs. Mhm.
Okay, okay.
But it's
Um,
both.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I just really love it and I'm excited for what's to come. And we've already had some great podcasts recorded with some phenomenal athletes. So
Mhm.
yeah, you guys will be hearing from us a little more often now.
And we're moving to a new podcast host, one that has some really great reviews as far as like hosting goes, and just taking kind of what we've learned with podcasting to this kind of new space. And yeah, just it's all about like learning and adapting and applying what you learned. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be really
Mhm.
good. All right. So for new listeners, we're going to give you guys a little bit of a background on us. So Kat, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the nutrition space and all of your kind of your certifications, what, the type of athlete or person you really like to work with and what your focus is.
Yeah. All right. So, where to begin? So I grew up as an athlete. I did figure skating and taekwondo, very individual sports, but it was pretty early on that I realized just how much nutrition played a role in my performance, like my energy and my recovery. And I thought that was really cool. And I wanted to learn more. So at that time, it was still very early time. There was a lot of nutrition information out there. But the biggest thing at that point in those years was just like restriction, a lot of calorie restriction. I went through several years where I wanted to just learn everything that I could about nutrition. So I was doing a lot of like Googling and stuff. But I was also at the same time beginning to fear certain kinds of foods. There was a point where like pork and beef and just like extra sugars and stuff, I was just really like fearful about consuming any bit of that, thinking that it would make me all of a sudden unhealthy and sick and just all of this stuff. And so that really pushed me into creating more like fear around food and more restriction. At one point, I was getting ready to be at a really big competition for or tournament for Taekwondo. It was getting sponsored. It was all great. But then I tore my ACL, and that was really, really, really challenging time for me. I had pushed that kind of pushed me into I had less control overall, and so that pushed me even deeper into more restriction. At that point, I was also kind of getting into my major in college, in early college, to study kinesiology. And I really wanted to be in the training, fitness, health realm, but I didn't know exactly how that would look. And so I had I talked to my advisor about how I can kind of do that, being a kinesiology major. And they had encouraged me to look into nutrition and look into becoming a registered dietitian. And so there was actually a dietitian, and I started out at a community college, but she was a local private practice dietitian, and she did a couple of classes at the college. And so I went there and I just loved everything that she was talking about and what she was doing. She had us doing these cool little stations where we each made like a super simple meal, and it was aimed at college students. It was just a really good time. And I
Yeah.
ended up getting her contact information, and I did like I went there to like ask more questions in a shadow one day. And I'm so grateful for her because I don't know if I would have become a dietitian without her. I ended up years later when I was doing my rotations, I spent some time at her private practice, and then later on, I worked there for a little bit of time too. But anyway, I ended up transferring to Texas A&M, and I decided to, at that point, I still wasn't sold on becoming a dietitian because I was really scared of some of the science courses, especially like biochem and stuff. And I had, yeah, I'll share that later. But I ended up just kind of sticking it out with lots of crying. And I, when I was in taking the classes, I went in there with sports like focus, right? Performance nutrition. But I really fell in love with the nutrition through the life cycles course, especially like the prenatal nutrition and just like fertility related, just overall that area. And then I became a dietitian, fast forward, and I still was really interested in the sports nutrition side of things, but I also really enjoyed the clinical side. So like and this is still how I am today. I will like get hyper focused on one thing and want to dive all the way in. But I still like and appreciate all the other areas too. So when I became a dietitian, I was working as a clinical dietitian in a hospital, and I joined CrossFit. I was really scared to join CrossFit because I thought they were going to tell me that I had to eat bacon every day, all the time. And it just seemed like a little culty, but I wanted to try it out, and it was the best thing ever. Um, but through that, so we're actually coming up next year is going to be a decade since being a dietitian, which is wild.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's crazy.
It's been a while, and it's gone so fast. But throughout that almost decade, I've spent different years where I've focused more so on one area, but not forgetting about those other areas too. But now it's really brought me to a place where I feel like so excited about what I do, and there's still so much more to learn. I am a person who has had imposter syndrome like the entire time, and someone who, because of feeling that way, has sought out so many different like ways that I can grow in those areas that I think are important and that I find interesting that I want to learn more about. And so because of that and spending so much time now coming in studying nutrition for so long and practicing for almost a decade now, I feel like I'm just now able to like play and like do cool things with it and really, really see just how I can help people and apply that to people. And so with all of that, I really focus on a lot of digestive health clients, athletes. That is one of the coolest areas. When I think about digestive health, I have so many different kind of file cabinets in my head, and I pull from this area and this area and this area because digestive health is such like a puzzle and very individualized for the person. And so that's really fun. And when I can pair that together when it is an athlete and or if they are in pregnancy or like soon after, they're like wanting that, that's like super fun too. So um to kind of sum that up, CrossFit athletes or, people who want to move weight around, digestive health, and if they have like want a baby or anything. Those are my like areas of focus. And I can go outside of that, but those are the areas that I really love and that I feel like I can help. And
Yeah,
so within all of that, kind of wrapped up in a bubble, I have taken a lot of my experience and my journey in having an unhealthy relationship with food and really promoting the idea of a healthy relationship with food and doing things that are sustainable and that what they're able to do consistently, not only for PRs now, but for PRs down the line,
right.
and overall wellness down the line. That's something that's really important to both of us. I know, and it was really like as a part of like the core of Iron Movement, and we're still, taking that, and that can look different for different people, but in any way, how that looks, just a healthy relationship with food.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
kind of a
That was
lot.
really well said. No, that was great. Get a little
Oh,
peek
and I have
into
my
Pat
husband's in the
Benson's mind.
military. Oh yeah, I was gonna say my husband's in the military, and I have a toddler and three cats and one dog.
Oh, yeah. Got a full house.
Yeah,
Full house.
yeah.
How are the animals now that Marcus can like really move? How
Oh,
has that become?
they actually love him. So the other
Okay,
day I
good.
took a picture. Coconut, he was asleep on the bed, and Coconut was right.
Coconut was the one I was most worried about.
She was laying down right next to him. So like
Oh,
she'll keep a distance sometimes, but she'll move around with us like
okay.
usually. And it depends on her mood, but she tolerates him well. She tolerates him more than one of the cats.
Okay. That's how's Loki?
And yeah, Loki is fine with him.
Okay.
Onyx is good. The dog Sully, he's so patient with him. Sometimes I'm like, I see something happen, and I'm like, thank you, Sully. Like you are so patient, and I do the best that I can. And yeah, I still don't like let him hit him or anything like that. But just sometimes like little things happen, and then Sully will just
Yeah.
like look at me.
Come get your child.
Right, come get your child. I'm not babysitting him. But yeah, he's really good and
That's awesome.
yeah, yeah.
That's
Mhm.
great. That is great.
I'm trying to
So,
think. That was mostly, I think that was like everything that was important.
okay.
Yeah. What, oh, and then I guess just now it's just a different season in life, being a mom of a toddler and learning how it's like getting kind of uh, I mean, I almost feel like stronger than when I was before I had him,
Yeah.
especially like in training. That's been really
Okay.
cool to
That's
see.
awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah. It is fun seeing people in the now that I'm an older athlete, like it's fun seeing people at the beginning of their journey and how, just different seasons of life dictate what training looks like during that time. And that's what I enjoy as an athlete now that I'm on the other side of it as far as my age and things like that. And even
You're
my
still
work
really
right now.
young though.
No, not anymore, Kat. It's not like I'm not old. I don't think
No.
I'm old, but I'm
Okay.
also not young anymore.
I mean,
So,
it's relative.
but for me, I got involved with nutrition really, CrossFit was what opened my eyes to nutrition. It's one of those things that you know is important, but I don't remember learning a whole lot about it. Like I remember taking like PE and health and getting like basics. I could tell you what a carb was and what a fat was and protein and how you need carbs for energy. Like I knew that, but I definitely didn't understand how important they play a role in your workouts, in even focusing at school. I think like you, while I'm a little bit older than you, I think really until recently, it's always been our society of food restriction, calorie restriction, be tiny, be small. And
That's what it
so,
was. That's what I fell back to. Just be
yeah.
small.
And so
Don't eat.
while I'm playing sports, like trying to not eat, I always, we talked about this with the interview with Dana, right? I wonder how good, or maybe it was with Jordan, I can't remember, but I always wonder how good maybe I could have been if I wasn't so restrictive with food. Like,
Mhm.
and then on the flip side, I would kind of go through this binge restriction. And I definitely didn't have a food, I didn't have a eating disorder, but I had disordered eating because, again, I didn't, and not because I wanted to, if that makes sense. It was more like I just didn't know any other way. It was, I need to restrict so I can lose weight or just, get smaller, but I would get hungry. And so I would end up binging and then that cycle would just start over again. Um, so it wasn't really until CrossFit where I started reading the CrossFit Level 1 and got introduced to the zone
Mhm.
and just kind of it went into detail about the role that nutrition plays in your training. It really talked about eating whole, like mostly whole food, stay away from processed stuff. Um, all like good rule of thumb to live by, right? Like, and then CrossFit in like 2008, 2009 jumped on the paleo bandwagon and I was right along with it because, again, in my
It
mind,
was
yeah, it makes
big.
sense. Like these foods make sense. They're natural foods. Why wouldn't I not want to eat them? Um, but when you start competing, you realize that the carbohydrates that are needed for that level of training when you're training for several hours just isn't um feasible. So I
There
think,
was unnecessary restriction too of like the legumes and
yeah, yeah, unnecessary, yeah.
yeah.
But
There was some
the
good.
more I even think about that, and again, everything in moderation, but like someone who literally had no clue, and I'm eating
Oh, it
like
gave them like
it
a
was just like this
something
foundation of
yeah.
those have a lot of carbs and a lot of protein.
I
Like I
couldn't give
didn't
them a better
realize that stuff. And
foundation.
so now instead of eating like 50 grams of carbs, you're inadvertently getting 100 because you're doing beans and whatever else, right? Like and I didn't understand that. So while I can look back at it now and see where it can be problematic, for what I needed in that time, it was very helpful. And it started the journey
Really?
of like understanding food and the importance of carbs, proteins, fat, trying to eat a more balanced, nutritious meal every meal.
Did you
And
notice a
then
big difference in how you felt, like energy wise and
oh yeah. Yeah. Energy was good. I've always been a great sleeper, so nothing really with that. But everything about it made me just want to be better. Like
mm,
I wanted to reduce my alcohol consumption. I didn't want to stay out late. I wanted to go because everything that CrossFit preached was like, this is how you get better. And not just for competition, but for life, right? And I'll be honest, fitness and nutrition in so many ways. And I say this as someone who has all the other blocks checked. We talked a lot about like the all the other social determinants of health. So
Oh, we need
barring
to
that,
talk about
those are
that
all,
on this
yeah,
podcast.
all of those are ticked, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm not homeless. I feel safe. I have a steady job, all of those things that can, I live in a nice neighborhood in a
Like
nice
in
area.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you're
Yeah,
the
like my
self-actualization.
exactly. My hierarchy of needs have been met. And so I can say that the health and fitness is what takes me over the top, right? So if you would
Mhm.
take someone else who has their hierarchy of needs, but they drink all the time, they don't sleep, and they eat, I see the difference in what those people look like versus myself. Um, and people who value kind of the nutrition and the health regimen. And again, those are the only people I compare, not even really compare, but that I would look at and say, how is that different? Because there's no comparison if someone's living check to check and they
Right.
don't have access to good health care or they live in a food desert. Like
That
that.
is also important. That is not the target like focus of,
Exactly.
yeah, it's important to be aware of that and to bring awareness to that, but it's hard to like meet that like everybody's needs. Right now we're like talking to that. And
Yeah,
that's a privileged place to be ultimately.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
recognizing that is important.
Well, and at that level, that requires like federal, state, local interventions, right? Like
It's a
those
lot of
are
work.
not things that you and I can fix on a podcast or
Yeah.
even individually in lots of ways. Like those are systemic societal issues that have to be fixed in order to help um
Yeah.
a subset of the population that
Mhm.
when we talk about health and we don't bring that up, it does a disservice to those people that are afflicted with that.
Mhm.
So
Really good point.
anyway, that's kind of a
I'm
tangent.
glad you no, that's important to talk about for this episode.
Yeah,
Because I mean for new listeners, the social determinants of health is exactly like you can't put all of this additional effort and just the resources needed to do what to run after PRs, like that's not
exactly.
realistic for a large
Right.
majority of people.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Yeah. So we kind of, I
Sorry,
think
you were telling your story. I
that's
interrupted.
okay. I feel like, I mean, yeah. So I'll tell my story just a little bit. So again, for new listeners, I started CrossFit in 2008. I was in Kuwait on a mobilization, and when you're not working, you're at the gym. That was just how it was. And I was a medic at that time in the army, and we did 24-hour shifts on like literally for the whole year, day on, day off. That was how it was for the whole year. So 24-hour shift, but you could take your ambulance as long as you had comms with you and you took an ambulance with you, you could go to the gym still. So that would normally be how we did it. On the days we worked 24, we would just take the ambulance over there and work. And then if we got a call, obviously we'd have to leave. And then on our 24-hour off, we'd usually go twice a day or something like that. Um, but yeah, there was a group of Marines that were there. They were basically waiting on orders. And so they were hanging out and they basically said, "Do you want to come try this workout?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And got totally wrecked. Don't even really remember the workout. Just remember thinking, I hope no one has an emergency for the next couple of days because I did not walk right. um, but I fell in love. Like Kat, I played sports growing up, and I think Kat, maybe you dealt with this too, but you grow up and there's no sports, and you're like, well, what do I do with myself? Like
Yeah.
5 to 6 hours of my day every day since the time I was a child was filled with training, right?
That's
Like,
why I did a half marathon one time.
I think everyone goes through the running phase when they've left sports. Like, yeah, so you
One time. I was good.
right? You're
Yeah.
like one and done. But yeah, so the same thing. I played basketball from middle school through 2 years of college. And college basketball was like conditioning in the morning, weights at lunch and actual practice in the afternoon, right? Like my whole life was like centered around like classes got built around basketball schedule, right? And so you are done with it and you're like, well, wow, what do I do now? So like everyone, you dabble in running, and I realized I did not like running. And it's not very communal.
Yeah.
Which if you played team sports, I don't know, I was looking for that, like who's there to talk trash with and go back and forth with and really push yourself if
Yeah.
you're not with people, you know?
Mhm.
I also think being military, that plays a huge role. Again, as a medic, you're with a group of soldiers and you guys are working together. And so, yeah, I was looking for that communal part and the social part and also the fitness part. And so CrossFit came at just the right time and offered me all of those things. I feel like I'm saying that and it sounds very culty.
I mean,
But
we're talking about CrossFit though.
right, right.
Yeah.
So
It's
So, you know,
community.
it gave me all of these positive things that also like encouraged me and influenced me to make like change my whole thoughts about health and
Right.
sleep and nutrition and alcohol and
The
uh
difference is they're not keeping you hostage from your like friends and family.
I mean, I did
I mean,
open up a
they
gym, so you never
become your
know.
friends and family.
They've become the family.
No,
So
but that,
yeah,
I
and
mean, that's really important
I
to.
I remember becoming obsessed. Like,
Mm,
so at the time, you didn't really have internet in your room. You'd have to buy like these
really.
cards to like like basically have minutes time to use the internet. And
Mhm.
I literally would spend all my cards on looking up on CrossFit.com, on the .com works on the website, finding any company that was affiliated with them and trying to like read everything I could. And so yeah, I was just like, this is what I've been missing. The camaraderie, people cheering you on, but you also trying to compete with them to beat them.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I found it and never looked back. So get back home, and in 2012, Vince and I open up our affiliate. I probably started maybe a year earlier, just in the garage, like having people over. I did
Yeah.
it for free. Like, let me just practice. Just come in. You can get a free workout. Let me coach you. Did that for about a year, and then we finally affiliated in 2012. So yeah, man, this year will be 12 years at the end of the year, be 12 years of owning the gym. So, yeah, I drank the Kool-Aid 100%, like all in. So we opened the gym, and then got Kat and her husband PCS to Fort Riley, and that's where we met. And that's when we started discussing having the nutrition piece, because we know for a lot of people, they end up liking CrossFit the way we do, right? Like maybe not to the level, but they enjoy it enough that they come and they're long-term members. And so the hour a day is easy. It was really the other 23 hours that people struggled with the nutrition, sleep. Like they just didn't understand how important it is and impacts their quality of life and their performance, inside and outside the gym. And so we wanted to change that. So that's where Iron Movement came. And that's been, when did we start Iron Movement? 2016?
18. Well, we did other stuff first, but then the actual LLC, I think, was 2018 because it was
Okay. Yeah, that
right
sounds about
before it was
right.
moving. Mm,
Yep.
PCS
So
moved.
yeah, that's my CrossFit story. I'm still in the army.
She's been to several comps.
Yes. Yes. I went to regionals in 2011, 2012, before, it got real huge. Um,
I was looking up some of the games workouts like the other week, and I was like, man.
yeah, yeah. I like when they do repeats of some of the older workouts,
Mm,
because these new athletes just annihilate the old times and the old weights. And
wild.
It's so cool to see the development of the athletes over the years and just how much they've grown and gotten so strong and so fast. Um, it's really cool. So yeah, I've competed regionals twice, and then I've now that I'm in the old lady categories, I do TFX a couple times, and I've placed there several years in a row. So yeah, it's been fun.
I'm gonna be there next year.
Are
Not
you? You're going to
no,
compete?
no, not TF. I mean, maybe TFX, but the 35.
Oh yeah. Look at
Yeah.
you. Welcome to the club.
Thanks.
The
Yeah.
girls in the 35-year-old category are fucking monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And even 40 to 44 now, I'm like, wow,
Okay, yeah.
these
Yeah.
girls, I need them to retire.
So she works Christina's full time. She works full time. So you're not able to
Yeah.
train as much as you want to. That's, part of it.
Unfortunately, no.
Yeah.
Yep, that's just the season of life I'm in right now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but
But you would be there if you could.
maybe.
Do you want to talk about what athletes that you really like working with and your area of focus with nutrition?
Sure. Uh, so obviously we have the podcast, but our primary focus is nutrition coaching that we offer. Uh, I work with a very kind of narrow focus, like what Kat talked about. She just, she's got the degree, she's got all the certifications. I'm very niche. I work with basically CrossFit athletes, weightlifters, and then arm like soldiers. And they have like a good relationship with food. They basically are like, I have a goal. This is what I want to do performance wise, and I help with performance.
Macros.
Everything
And
else kind of is Kat's bag.
I mean, and that's what I really love. So, there are some dietitians who are like really against nutrition coaches and stuff like that. If there is a scope of practice though that you have with your precision nutrition background and stuff, and it's great. That's one of the reasons why we have been so supportive of precision nutrition and kind of what they provide and their push for scope of practice. And so within that, like you're able to do that and it's all good. It's when we start to see them go into like medical nutrition therapy and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah,
Absolutely.
there's definitely a need and a place for nutrition coaches and stuff. And so that's why, I mean, I love working with you. So yeah.
Thanks. Likewise, I'm always like texting or messaging her, is this right?
It's good to have that kind of back and forth.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
So we have like a scaled option, RX and Pro. So there's all of that will be linked down below if you're interested in getting some nutrition coaching to help with your plates and
PRs.
yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, that kind of wraps it up. So we want to talk
I
about
think
today.
so. So now you know a little bit about us. And if you have any questions or anything, feel free to reach out. You can email us or find us on Instagram or Facebook.
And because this is a brand new podcast, please leave a rating and a review. We'd really appreciate that. And we'll see if we get some more followers. More
Awesome.
listeners. All right. Bye, y'all.